Prime Minister Mark Carney says Canada will rapidly advance its military spending timeline to hit the NATO target of 2% of national GDP this year. The previous Liberal government had promised to meet that target by 2032. But all of this extra spending might not even be enough, as the United States is now moving the goalpost and asking allies to open up their pocketbooks even more.
I'm announcing today that Canada will achieve NATO's 2% of GDP target this year, half a decade ahead of schedule.
Prime Minister Mark Carney says he's opening up Canada's pocketbooks when it comes to military spending. The PM made the announcement in Toronto this morning, saying Canada will add $9 billion to its military this year in order to hit the NATO target of 2% GDP and to strengthen Canada's military as the U.S. becomes an unreliable ally.
And we will further accelerate our investments in years to come, consistent with meeting these new security imperatives.
Currently, the Canadian government spends 1.45% and had planned to up it by 2032. Canada hasn't hit the 2% target since 1990, and the Prime Minister says it shows.
Only one of our 4 submarines is seaworthy. Less than half our maritime fleet and land vehicles are operational. More broadly, we're too reliant on the United States.
The new defense spending plan includes $2.6 billion for recruiting and retaining members of the Canadian Armed Forces, $1 billion for boosting military capabilities, $2.1 billion for a new defense industrial strategy, and $2 billion to diversify Canada's defense relationships beyond the United States. In his speech, Carney cited planned purchases of new fighter jets, submarines, and drones, all items he spoke about during the recent election campaign, though he offered few details about how the Ministry of Defense would boost its capacity.
We'll start by changing the way we support and invest in our armed forces. We will change the way we arm the men and women who serve, so we can fight on new battlegrounds in unfamiliar territory. So we can defend every inch of our sovereign territory, from seafloor to the Arctic to cyberspace.
He also vowed to expand the security mandate and abilities of the Canadian Coast Guard and integrate it into NATO. He also announced a plan to create a new research bureau called Borealis for research in artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and other new technologies. Carney promised to not raise taxes to pay for all of it. Here's what Tory leader Pierre Poilievre had to say about Carney's new announcement today.
All of this is going to take money, and that's why we support getting back to the 2% target as soon as possible. And we will support additional money for our military. That's why we're calling on the government to bring in a budget, because all of this will require a budget.
Carney's announcement comes just ahead of a major NATO meeting in the Netherlands at the end of this month. At the meeting, the United States is expected to ask allies to up spending even more, setting the benchmark at 5% of GDP. Canada hasn't spent that much on its military since 1950. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth made his pitch at a NATO meeting in Brussels last week.
It can't be about the flags that we love. It has to be about the formations that we have. It's that hard power that actually deters. And it can't just be U.S. capabilities.
Currently, around 3.4% of the states' GDP goes to military spending. The NATO allies at last week's meeting, including Canada's Defense Minister David McGuinty, approved an ambitious set of new capability targets. They say to meet the growing risk posed by countries like Russia and China. And now the leader of NATO says the military alliance needs a 400% increase in air and missile defense.
A 400% increase in air and missile defense. We see in Ukraine how Russia delivers terror from above. So we will strengthen the shield that protects our skies.